Welcome to Upshot. I'm Huntsville Mayor Tommy Battle. Today's program will address one of the most popular service requests we receive this time of year. That's potholes. Each year when we transition from winter months into early spring rains, many of our roads crack and open up and a number of potholes come out. The person responsible for filling those potholes, as well as resurfacing streets, installing sidewalks, sanitation, and a host of other duties, is our Public Works Director, Chris McNeese. Chris, welcome to Upshot. We're so glad to have you here. You know, this time of year, your crews are very busy and you're filling potholes every day of the week. How many potholes do you think y'all get a week?
Well, our crews are addressing anywhere between 2,800 to 3,000 potholes a week.
Good gosh. And now, you were telling me earlier there are different degrees of potholes. Tell me about this now. This is something very interesting.
Well, there are. Obviously, a pothole is a voided area in the asphalt, which is worn out by traffic, obviously. A lot of those areas get down to your base material and your subgrade. And those crews are out there driving routes every day, making sure that they identify as many of those hazards to the general public, and they try to eliminate those hazards for the traveling public. That's one type. Another type is what we call a scab, which is where
what I call the gator. The gator, yeah.
You're correct. Alligator cracking really does cause a lot of problems for the wearing course, and alligator cracking produces these scabs where the wearing course loses bond from the binder course and it kind of pops off, so you have this little flat hole, if you will, that our crews still address on a daily basis.
Yeah. You know, I used to divide the city calendar into seasons, and summer is road building season, winter was when we had to clean out ditches and everything, and then right as we went into January, February, March, that was pothole season because it seemed like we had potholes popping up like popcorn all around. And your crews, you have what, 4 crews, is that right?
Yes, sir. The city of Huntsville is divided up into 4 areas, and each area has its own patch truck and a crew assigned to that patch truck. And they drive routes every day looking for deficiencies in the roadway, and they not only drive the routes, they also respond to calls and our Huntsville Connect.
Good. Now, Chris, you're in charge of Public Works, and Public Works has how many people in it?
Well, Public Works is made up of 2 sides of the house. We have sanitation on one side and operations on the other, and there's a total of approximately 220 people.
Good, good. You know, when I go talk to the kindergarten classes or early childhood education classes, I can tell them a whole lot of things about what a mayor does, but they get very excited when you start talking about that you're in charge of the garbage trucks. And it's always fascinating to see their eyes light up when you start talking about garbage trucks and everything else. Tell me about, how we set up our garbage service and our sanitation service in the community.
Well, right now, the sanitation side of the house is being managed by a man by the name of Donald Scott. He's doing an amazing job keeping our crews on schedule and keeping them out there, driving the routes, completing the routes, and getting all of our trash and debris picked up. But we have 3 ways of picking up trash and debris. We have what's called the automated arm, an automated truck which has a single arm that comes out to the side.
That's like CP3P.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Star Wars. Okay, good. Yeah.
They'll reach out, grab a cart, empty it, bring it back down and set it down. We try to set it down as gently as possible so we don't have any tip over or the lid's open, so we try to set it with the lid closed. But we also have the rear loading garbage trucks because they're a little bit of a smaller wheelbase. They help us get to tighter spots. That's more of a traditional garbage truck because it has a driver and 2 workers on the back.
That makes your back hurt, doesn't it? Can
Yes,
you imagine picking up those garbage cans all day, throwing them in there, then putting them back out?
Well, it's not so much the larger carts they pick up. They pick up the smaller containers, the 30-gallon containers, as opposed to the larger carts, but it would wear on you physically. And we also have our boom trucks, which is that picks up the grass clippings, debris, bags of leaves, sort of things.
Sure. Now, you remember we used to have, and this is what people ask me about all the time, we used to have the leaf vacuum trucks. We'll come around and vacuum up your leaves and everything. And people ask me time and time again, why don't we still have leaf vacuum trucks? And I say it's just a math problem. You have 85,000 customers out there. If you take those 85,000 customers and say you've got somebody who picks up leaves and they can pick up, really working hard with no breaks or anything else, 10 houses an hour. They get 80 houses a day. You get 400 houses a week. and you want to pick up leaves once a week, then it takes, I think it really figures out to be about 122 trucks, and each one of those trucks costs what?
Anywhere from 250 to 300,000 a piece. They're very expensive.
So 122 trucks at 300,000 each, we'd spend about $33 million in leaf vacuum trucks, and also they don't work some of the time. Is that right?
There's a lot of components, a lot of working components to those vehicles. We do have mechanical issues from time to time, and that does kind of get in the way of you completing your routes.
And when it rains?
When it rains, it's very difficult to pick up wet leaves, as anybody would know.
Yeah. So I tell everybody it's just simply a math problem there. 122 trucks running around the city trying to pick up leaves. We're probably better off just bagging leaves and putting them in the back of the trucks as we do leaf pickup and everything.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Good. Tell me, as you go through your day, you also have the public works side. How many people are working in public works, and what do y'all do there?
Well, the sanitation has about 100 employees working on the sanitation side. The operations side has about 120. And on the operations side, it is divided into two entities, maintenance and construction. Mm-hmm. And the maintenance side, again, the city of Huntsville is divided into 4 areas. Each area has a maintenance area supervisor, and they run through and actually maintain the roadways and the ditches. The construction side of the house,
now, before you get back to construction, the maintenance side, if they're taking care of the roadways and the ditches, what do they do in the ditches? They make sure that
any debris, whether it be limbs, leaves, any debris that's obstructing the flow of water going down the flow line of the ditch. We have a lot of riprap that sometimes will wash downstream, clog up some inlets, that sort of thing. They just make sure that they keep that water flowing.
If somebody sees, and we've got lots of miles of ditches in the city of Huntsville, right? How many miles do you think we have?
Several thousand miles.
Several thousand miles of ditches. And if somebody sees, debris starting to gather on a bridge or gather in a place and everything else, where would they call to get somebody to come clear that out?
Well, they could call our office, which is 256-883-3944, or they could get on Huntsville Connect and take a picture of the isolated area that they're concerned with, and download the pictures off the website, and they could also use the app as well.
Now, many people don't realize on Christmas Day I called you, didn't I?
Yes, sir, you did. we responded.
We had those massive rains on Christmas Day, and right about 9 o'clock, we were about to come out of all of our ditches. It was amazing. I was driving around looking at the ditches on Christmas Day, and we were about to come out of all the ditches with overflow of rainwater, and we were going to have some massive flooding. And so I called you, and you came out and came all the way over from your home in Arab and came over and started looking it over. And the interesting thing that I found is that between 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock, because your crews had kept the ditches as clean as they had, all of a sudden it slowed down a little bit in how fast it was raining, and we dropped about a quarter of the way down the ditch before we had other drainage coming in. I mean, y'all did a wonderful job with it.
They routinely drive their routes. They keep the ditches as clean. When they see something with their observation, if they see something clogging the ditch, obviously they'll stop and they'll get it out. And like I said, they respond to calls too. There's a lot of these ditches in residential areas that go behind the homes, and a lot of our residents are very aware as well. And they'll call and they'll make us aware of a fallen tree or a limb that's gotten to the ditch, and we'll respond and get it out of there. So we can be prepared for those inclement weather, those high-intensity rain days.
Years ago, we had a problem down in the Jones Valley, Lily Flag area and everything because we had trees growing up in the ditches.
That's correct.
You have to get special permits to get in there to clear those out?
You have to get with ADM to get into those ditches, through the Corps of Engineers to get into those ditches. For ADM, if you cause any erosion issues getting in. The Corps of Engineers, they do allow us to get into those ditches and to remove material. Obviously, they prohibit any fill material in the ditches, but if you're getting in there kind of dredging out the flow line, trying to maintain that passage for the rainwater, obviously they don't want anyone to flood, but at the same time they don't want any filling in the ditches either.
Let me tell you, during the Christmas period, between Christmas and New Year's, I mean, we had lots of rain in the area, and we had one of the most massive amounts of rainfall that we've seen in a long time.
Sort of an act of God issue.
Yeah, and y'all did an excellent job. We had basically no flooding in our at least in our areas where we had homes, right?
Absolutely. The men down there, that you have a very dedicated workforce down there at Public Works. They're all about making sure that we maintain a safe environment for our citizens, whether that be on the roadway or in the ditches as well.
A lot of people don't realize that when we had that amount of rain, we did very well. All the water was flowing out very, very well until the Tennessee River rose to a certain
That's correct.
certain level.
Obviously, the Tennessee River's elevation dictates how fast our water will get out of our ditches. Sometimes we have water taking a little longer than usual, but we're all reliant on the Tennessee River elevation.
Yeah, Sunday right after Christmas Day, we were doing our flooding tour, just kind of going around looking at all the areas, and I noticed that the water was starting to come backwards instead of going to the river because the river had gotten higher than most of our drainage ways.
It did. And that happens from time to time, but it just depends on how much rainfall we get.
Yeah. Okay, now construction side. You also do construction?
Covered the maintenance side of the operations side of the house. We do construction as well. There's 4 maintenance area supervisors, and there's also 4 construction foremen. And what those construction groups do, each one of them has a different task. We have a heavy equipment operations where we move a lot of dirt. We have a couple pans, a couple tractors.
Big old bulldozer, what?
Well, a pan is like you'd see, like with a lot of these large dirt movers. They'll have a large John Deere tractor pulling the actual scrapers behind the John Deere tractor, sure, and moving dirt in large volumes. But we have a couple of pans, we have track hoes, we have dump trucks. Obviously, the big equipment is done with one group. The second group is they handle a lot more piping installation, where they'll do culverts, box culverts, that sort of thing. The third group it handles more demolition. We see a lot of structures coming down. We see a lot of material being removed for development throughout the city, and they handle demolition and smaller pipe jobs. And the fourth group that we have is mainly concentrated on concrete, ADA requirements, and small ditch repair. Okay, so each one of them have a specific task.
Wow. Talk to me about ADA now. A lot of people are noticing you go down a sidewalk and you're seeing portions of it almost look like it's ground off or scraped off.
It is. It's what we call shaving. We do have we're contracted right now with a company called Precision Concrete. They come in and they'll shave where we have sections of the concrete that's raised over, I think, an inch. They'll come down and shave them off, get them to ADA compliancy. That's our focus in the next few years, is to get all of Huntsville, city limits to city limits, ADA compliant.
Yeah, ADA compliant, that means less than a quarter of an inch of rise as you go from one structure, one surface to another?
From the transitions, it cannot exceed quarter of an inch, yes, sir.
Wow. In the whole city?
Well, that's our goal. That's our goal. We do have a transition plan in place. We're trying to execute that transition plan through our legal department. It doesn't just handle or doesn't just address sidewalks. It also addresses crosswalks, handicap ramps, driveway aprons. We have a number of issues that we're trying to address.
Now, a lot of people ask me, so why do we, as a city, get into the business of construction? You know, why don't you farm all this out to people who are in that day-to-day business? It seems to me, and my answer to them is that we can get to it quicker, faster.
We can.
And quite frankly, with our crews working it, we can save a little bit of money. But we do both sides, don't we? Our guys do some, but then if it gets into a big job, we turn it over to contractors.
Well, that's what we do. That's what Public Works does on the operations side, is maintenance. So we'll come in and we'll prepare the small jobs, the patching, if we can saw cut out a depression from a utility installation. A lot of folks see that. We get a lot of calls and a lot of Huntsville Connect requests for utility crossings. You'll see a depression down the center of the road with a sanitary sewer line or telecommunications, gas, water, electric. You'll see a lot of those depressions. So we can jump in there, saw cut those, repair them, get out a little bit quicker than some of our larger local contractors can. But if the job is too big, obviously we'll bid it out and bring the larger guys in.
Now, here's the classic question. Everybody asks this question. It said, my road hadn't been paved in 40 years. I want my road paved. Why hasn't the city done anything in 40 years? Tell me about how you get to your list of what roads are paved each year and how much you're spending on paving roads.
Well, right now we have budgeted $4.7 million for resurfacing roadways. And we we address those roadways, each one of our areas that we mentioned before. There's 4 areas of Huntsville. And each one of those areas has a right-of-way inspector. And what they'll do is, routinely on a day-to-day basis, they have a route that they are assigned. They will drive that route and they'll go and assess or rate, like we call it, residential streets, major collector, minor collectors, and so forth. They'll
And
rate
major
the streets.
collectors would be what?
Like the large 5-lane roads.
Okay, Winchester, Bailey Cove,
Yes, sir.
things like that.
Yes, sir.
Minor collectors are
bringing the residential roads and neighborhoods to the major collectors.
Okay.
A lot of them are 2-3 lane roads,
Okay.
and such. So we go out and we'll drive those and we'll rate those. And how they rate them is we have a sheet that we go by. They'll look at raveling. They'll look at the deficiencies in the roadway. And what they do with each deficiency, which they have a list, depressions, raveling, corrugations, potholes, the patching, that sort of thing. And
one of them is it length of time since it's been repaved?
Well, they'll take each one of those. They'll take each one of the deficiencies, and they'll rate them as to where it's slight, medium, or severe. And each slight, moderate, or severe, that will have a less than 15%, 15 to 30%, or greater than 30%, and each one of those delineations will have a number assigned to it. So they'll determine, just by visual observation, they'll determine how it's rated, each one of those deficiencies, and then they'll come to a number, they'll add up the total, and that's how our streets are rated.
But if somebody says, my road hadn't been repaved in 40 years, that's not a good reason to repave it.
That's not a good reason. All of our roadways are subjected to weather. Obviously, the rain affects it, UV degradation. Obviously, it causes an overall deterioration of our roads. But some of our roads hold up a little better than others. Yeah. It mainly depends on traffic, depends on the abuse that the road is subjected to, and it depends on your subgrade. If you have a questionable subgrade, water is the biggest nightmare for roadways. You get water in your subgrade, it causes a lot of, through our winter months, as you referred to earlier, causes a lot of expansion and contraction, a lot of freeze-thaw. And then when we get to the wet season, which is what we're in right now, early spring, obviously a lot of our vertical loads that we put on a roadway with our vehicles, the deficiencies seem to rise, and they reveal themselves relatively quickly.
Good. So once you get your rating, how are your ratings? Are they numbered 1 through 5, A through B, A, B, C, D, E, F? Or
we go from 0 to 60, and a lot of our ratings, we try to, like this year, and it's with the budget that was allocated this year, we try to get from a rating of 42 and higher. But we're trying to go
42, 60 is the worst,
60 is the worst,
0 is the best, right?
Zero is the best.
Okay.
So this year we're going from 42 to 60, and we're trying to get the worst first. And that's kind of the approach we're trying to take, is to get from the worst to first, so we can try to get our worst streets and then work our way up to the good ones.
We've usually traditionally spent $6 million, maybe in the high years, $6 to $7 million on road resurfacing. We're at $5 million, 4.8. Then we have a little bit more of highway money coming in, so maybe $5.8 million this year. Will that cover all the roads that are from 40s and up or 50s and up?
Unfortunately, no, sir, it will not. We have a limited amount, obviously, with our budget, and I think you put it best whenever you submitted this to the council in October. You called it a vanilla budget. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're somewhat limited with our resurfacing funds this year. That's going to get better when the years come, when our economy recovers fully. But for now, we do have an amount we're trying to utilize. We're trying to stretch those dollars. We're trying to get the most that we can out of our taxpayer dollar and try to do as many streets as we can. Yeah. We won't get all of them, but our goal is to eventually get there.
I always tell everybody, say we have this much need and this much capacity. So we have
correct.
to try to figure out how to take this much capacity and spread it over all that need. Do you do major collectors first and minor collectors second and then residential third, or is it just really go by the score?
Well, it goes by the score, but it also goes by the area as well. We'll get a list of bad roads, if you will. We'll get a list that score high, and we'll try to regionalize it so that we don't get hit so much on mobilization. We're trying to look at the cost it takes for the contractor to mobilize, fix the roads. We want to kind of get him working in a certain area to knock all those roads out, whether it's a residential, whether it's a minor collector or a major collector. Again, to try to stretch the taxpayer dollars as much as we can.
Okay. Now, I've always heard the number of that, if we repave a road, that means mill up, repave, and repave, it's about $54,000 a lane mile. Does that sound about right?
Yes, sir. That's very correct. It is, but it's one lane. It's approximately 12 feet wide, so that's 54 per lane.
Wow. So if we've got a 5-lane road, it's 270 million times 270 million per mile, and if it's a 10 mile road, then we're talking $2.7 million.
That is correct.
Wow, those are numbers, and that ties all back into your budget of $5 to $6 million, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell us, if someone has a road that they would like to do, and please check on Briarcliff for me, because somebody just wrote me a letter on Briarcliff and said their road hadn't been done in 40 years. That will take care of the person from Briarcliff. But if someone has a road that they think needs to be evaluated, can they call you, or is it just done every year, or can they call you?
Well, there's several avenues they can call. They can call our office directly by using the 883-3944 number. You could also use there's your area councilman. I've been getting a lot of requests from the councilman to rate certain streets. They get requests as well. They're interacting with the public a lot, and they're getting a lot of requests as well. So they can call or go through a representative of the administration.
Okay. Now there's a new thing that has come out that we are working with federal ADA compliance now.
Yes,
as we remill and regrade a road, we have to bring the full road up to ADA compliance. Is that right?
Yes, sir. There's a renewed focus by the Department of Justice and ALDOT, and that renewed focus is PROAG, and that is the Pedestrian Right-of-Way Access Guidelines. And that's an accompaniment document to the ADA of 1990. So we're trying to, through our transition plan, through our legal department, we're trying to get Huntsville, again, from city limits to city limits. It's going to be a long time, or it's going to be over the course of a number of years. But to get ourselves ADA compliance with our pedestrian right-of-way infrastructure in the right-of-way.
Good.
And that involves, as you mentioned earlier, the sidewalks, handicap ramps, driveway aprons, crosswalks. I mean, all those are being addressed.
Good. So you're handling drainage ways, you're handling road repairs, you're handling potholes, you're handling garbage pickup, the waste pickup,
yes, sir.
And everything else. Does it keep you busy?
Somewhat. Yes, sir, it does. It's fun. I enjoy it, and I do enjoy it.
Well, I want to say thank you for the job you do, because even on Christmas Day, when I called you, you were out there and you had some of your crew out there. We made sure that the drainage ways were clear, and we made sure that we didn't have flooding.
Absolutely.
So, that's kind of our job, but I want to say thank you to you. And Chris, thank you for joining me today on our program on potholes and public works. I'm Mayor Tommy Battle. See you next time on The Upshot.